Bourget ground, Airbus 3905 at the Airbus display area. Ready to taxi, VFR display flight.
Airbus 3905, taxi to runway 3 via Charlie 11, Victor 1, Charlie.
3 via Charlie 11, Victor 1, Charlie. Airbus 3905. Okay, pull straight ahead, then turn left onto taxiway Charlie 11. Take the next left onto taxiway Victor 1. Taxi checklist. Flaps, set to flaps 1. Trim, set for takeoff. Taxi checklist complete. Turn right up here onto taxiway Charlie. Hold short of the runway. Hold here. I'll get our takeoff clearance. Le Bourget Tower, Airbus 3905 holding short 3. Request left closed traffic, 1 high-speed low approach, 1 low-speed low approach, then a full stop.
Airbus 3905, hold short runway 3. Landing traffic is a Boeing 737.
Holding short, Airbus 3905.
Boeing 419er, turn right next taxiway, contact ground point 9er.
419er.
Airbus 3905, winds are light and variable. Runway 3, cleared for takeoff. Left closed traffic approved.
Airbus 3905, cleared for takeoff. All right, we're cleared for takeoff. Turn right onto the runway, turn on the landing lights, and let's put on a show. Fly runway heading and start climbing to 2,000 feet. 80 knots. Rotate. V1, V2. Positive rate, gear up. Reduce thrust to maintain 200 knots and retract the flaps. Turn left now to a heading of 210 onto the downwind leg. Use 30 degrees of bank. Takeoff checklist. Landing gear, up. Flaps, set to 0. After takeoff checklist complete. We'll fly 2 passes to runway 3. A high-speed pass with a high-performance climb-out, then a low-speed pass with the gear and flaps extended. For the high-speed pass, we want to fly over the runway at 500 feet MSL at 330 knots. We'll overfly the runway, then pitch up 20 degrees for a high-performance climbing turn back onto downwind.
Airbus 3905, runway 3, cleared high-speed low approach, no speed restriction.
Cleared for a high-speed low approach, Airbus 3905. We'll continue our downwind leg until we're over the river, almost to the Eiffel Tower. Turn left now to a heading of 030. Use 30 degrees of bank. Maintain 2,000 feet and 200 knots. Roll out on a heading of 030. Runway 3 is the one to the left of all the buildings. Once you have the runway in sight, dive toward it and increase your airspeed to 330 knots. Don't exceed 330 knots and level off at 500 feet MSL. Fly down the length of the runway, level at 500 feet, and adjust thrust to maintain 330 knots.
Sink rate. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up.
Too fast. Slow to 330 knots.
Too low here.
Okay, now reduce thrust to idle and pitch up to 20 degrees. Make a climbing left turn back to a heading of 210. Level off at 2,000 feet and adjust thrust as necessary to maintain 200 knots. Reduce thrust to maintain 180 knots and set flaps 1. Set flaps 2. Adjust thrust to maintain 160 knots.
Airbus 3905 looking good. Runway 3 cleared low speed, low approach.
Cleared low approach, Airbus 3905. Turn left now to 030. Use 30 degrees of bank. Set flaps 3 and reduce speed to 140 knots. Start a gentle 500 foot per minute descent. For this pass, we'll level off at 700 feet MSL.
Sink rate. Pull up. Pull up.
Level off
Pull
at 700
up.
feet MSL and fly
Sink
toward the
rate.
runway.
Don't sink.
Fly down the length of the runway, level at 700 feet MSL, and adjust thrust to maintain 140 knots.
Sink rate. Pull up. Pull up.
Don't sink.
Too fast. Decrease speed to 140 knots. Set takeoff thrust and pitch up to 10 degrees. Raise the gear and set flaps 1. Make a climbing left turn back to a heading of 210. Level off at 2,000 feet and adjust thrust as necessary to maintain 180 knots. We're too high. Descend to 2,000. 2,000. flaps 2. Adjust thrust to maintain 160 knots.
Airbus 3905, runway 3, cleared to land.
Cleared to land, Airbus 3905. Turn left now to 030. Use 30 degrees of bank. Set flaps 3 and reduce speed to 140 knots. Now start a 500 foot per minute descent. This time we'll descend all the way to the runway and land. Line up with the runway and maintain 140 knots. Let's run through the before landing checklist. Landing gear, down. Flaps, set to flaps 3. Landing checklist complete.
Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink.
Sink rate. Pull up. Pull up. Sink rate.
Airbus 3905, turn right next taxiway, contact ground point 9er.
Going to ground, 3905. Ground, Airbus 3905, off 3.
Airbus 3905, taxi to parking in company display area.
3905 to parking. Okay, taxi back to our parking spot by the A380. All right, let's go ahead and shut her down. Lights off, fuel pumps off, engine master switches off, and brakes set. Nice flight. Now time to sign a few autographs and have lunch.